short clip by Bishop Dag Heward-Mills Ministries. Discover how God can change your life forever.
It was in Riga, one of the great seaports of the Russian Empire. A young man sat at an office desk in a large business building with a pencil in his hand, his eyes running up and down columns of figures. That afternoon shadows were lengthening and the day's work was drawing to a close. The young man was worried. The expression on his face betrayed the fact that something of an unusual nature was bothering him. For some reason, the figures, the calculations he was doing, refused to total correctly. 2 or 3 times, he lifted his head and stared restlessly as he glanced out of the window. At last, throwing down his pencil, he got up and walked to the window, and he stood gazing out on the street. Russian and Lettish workmen were trudging towards their home. Basil Maloff, that was his name, one of the great pastors sent as a missionary to Latvia. Yeah. The young man turned to see who had spoken, but saw no one. His face was a study as he again turned to the window to watch the busy street. Basil Maloff! Again he turned quickly but saw nothing. The office staff appeared unconcerned. No one looked up. The more he focused his attention on the passing traffic in the street, it seemed as if a voice were repeatedly saying to him, Basil Maloff, listen, if you were not in this office helping to make a rich unconverted manufacturer richer, you are helping to make a rich unconverted manufacturer richer still. You could go into the streets to tell others of Christ. Your employer can easily find other unconverted young men to do your work here as well as you. But if you who have been saved will not go, no one can take your place. Basil Maloff. Frightened by this voice, Basil tried to brush it aside. No, he said, I cannot be a missionary. I have no gift of preaching. I cannot go. And he went back to his desk. A day or two later, the same voice within him spoke again. And he was forced to get up from his chair and look out of the window. Hundreds of people were passing by. Workmen in their factory blouses, black with smoke. Women with napkins, riding their vehicles. That it might be to his own imagination, he turned and resumed his work. 2 times 2 makes 4. 8 times 7 are 56. 7 from 12 leaves 5. 9 and 3 are, let me see, 9. And no one to take your place. Oh, what am I doing? You see, he was thinking 7 times 3, 2 times 4. And then the word will come, no one to take your place. No one to take your place. Whatever ails me. Again, he stole from his desk to the window and watched once more the throngs that seemed to pass along the street. Basil Maloff! Basil Maloff! The voice said once more, Basil, do you see those hungry multitudes? Yes, he saw them. His vision was now penetrating further and further. All of Latvia was spread before him. Russia, with its teeming millions, loomed up in a moment of time. Moscow, St. Petersburg, appeared quickly. Moscow with its famous Kremlin at the center and 1,600 Greek Catholic churches. Then Siberia. Yes, he saw them. He saw them all in one brief moment as the vision passed before him. Basil Maloff pleaded the voice within his soul. If you don't go, no one will. I have no other. There are many who can do your work here, but none can do the one over there. Basil Maloff was a man of quick action. In a moment, his mind was made up. The voice could not be ignored. The call had been too clear for hesitancy. He would not be disobedient to the heavenly vision. He made his decision to respond and turned his eyes toward the mission field. His knowledge of mission fields was as yet limited. He knew something of C.H. Spurgeon, the preacher of preachers in London, having translated one of his sermons from German to Latvian. His knowledge of English was, however, limited to a few words. Procuring a dictionary, he looked up the words he needed and wrote to this Spurgeon. Another letter he sent in the same mail to his parents in Tukum, intimating to them his decision to go on the mission field. Send a message to his parents. A reply came from London, the Bible school. Come. There was also a reply from his parents. He took the letter to a nearby cemetery, whereby it was his custom to eat his noonday lunch and to meditate. And he sat down near a tombstone and hesitatingly read his mother's letter. This is his mother's letter. Dear Basil, he was still the little boy to his mother, even though he had grown to manhood. Dear Basil, are you going to leave us? Is that all you care for your poor old parents? Don't you love us anymore? Please don't leave us. Basil, my boy, don't go away. We need you. Now that we are getting old, what are we going to do without you, Basil? Don't go away. That's the letter read. And as he was slowly making out the words, he noticed on the sheet that there were big spots caused by teardrops that had fallen from his mother's eyes as he wrote. For a while, he stood looking in space, rigid as the tombstones around him. His poverty-stricken parents needed his aid. The salary of his father, one of the early pioneer preachers of Latvia, did not reach $100 a year. And he had a family of 8 to keep. In his youth, his father had left a much better position in order that he might become a gospel preacher. And now, when his older son was beginning to send his aged parents monthly support from his earnings, he was about to leave them to go away to a far-off land, perhaps never to see them again. When he was just earning some money. You see, all the problems we have, there is nothing new. Basil's mind was wandering to the old home in Tukum. Only one room, a dining room, kitchen, parlor, study combined in one. Then before his vision loomed his father, his face buried in his hands, pleading with God for souls, tears streaming from his eyes, while his mother was painfully bending over a washtub. A great lump rose in his throat and his eyes filled with tears. For some minutes he sobbed as if his heart would break. Then he engaged in agonizing prayer. For a moment he stood and, taking the letter of Jesus from his pocket, he read, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. And if any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." He read a letter from Jesus. These words were burning in his soul. Parents or God? Should he listen to his mother's appeal or should he obey God? Oh, what a battle. Fiercely the struggle raged within him. His eyes were closed. His face was drawn as he fought his battle. Surely he loved his parents. He would like to make himself responsible for them in their old age. His godly parents deserve his support and gratitude for their parental care. What is the word? And love for him in his childhood. But again, he seemed to see before him, as if eliminated, the words, "He that loveth father or mother more than me is not worthy of me."